Good morning and welcome to Wake Up with the Consciousness Café. My name is Lisa Ferraro, and this morning I'm almost, I can't even believe it, but I am so excited to welcome somebody who's been a mentor to me for my lifetime. And I want to welcome mentor guru Faye Burtch. Good morning, Faye. Welcome. She laughed at me. My humble teacher. Many, many years ago, I remember walking through, Faye is an herbalist, a qigong. She won't call herself a master, but master Rolfer, massage therapist, all around healing arts badass, if you will. I don't, and I use that term for just a few people, and you're one of them, Faye. But today we're going to talk mostly about herbs and how we can integrate the energy of plants into the fabric of our beings and how they're here to help. But when did you first realize you had this gift of recognizing the superpower that each plant, the medicinal qualities that plants offer us? How did that come about?
Well, I think the first realization that I was more than just a normal human was when I was about 4 or 5, and I was up in the attic praying. That was where my bedroom was, and I was praying to spirit, and this big light came down from the heavens and just came over me and told me that I was here for a reason, that I was here to help the planet and help people survive at the end of times. And spirit was talking to me when my mom came in, was really mad because I was on my knees instead of in bed, and kind of threw me back in bed and shut the door and told me to go to sleep. And it kind of threw it off for a while until I was about, just throughout my life, I've been very interested in the plants, but I didn't really have a mentor until I was in my early 20s, and I met a woman named Evelyn Snook. I had been learning from books and, exploring meditation and different ways to be. And I met this wonderful elder who was my age at the time, and I was in my 20s, who took me on as an apprentice. Oh. And then at that age, I pretty much gave my life to the healing arts. At that point, I was already a licensed massage therapist. I was 28, and I had been wanting to get into Rolfing school, but I was a licensed massage therapist. But I was very, very interested in the medicinal plants for food and medicine.
Yeah.
And that's what my teacher taught me, how to integrate, how to go out and identify, a lot of hands-on, how to bring the plants in and use them for food and medicine. Just really hands-on, backyard, woods medicine.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, just down to earth. This is how you survive.
I remember you sharing with me when I studied with you decades ago, walking around through the mountains of State College, that there was the story about Rumi would say, find the antidote in the venom, but the antidote to the venom is close by, right? Whatever could hurt us or bring damage to our physical bodies, not too far away from it is the thing that can heal it.
So a good example of that is jewelweed grows next to poison ivy, and poison ivy is pretty much taken over a lot of places because it's trying to protect the earth, because we keep destroying it and tearing it up without, respect. So the poison ivy comes to say, leave, help, leave us alone. I'll protect you. And then the jewelweed comes up to help. Take away the poison. So if you get poison ivy on your hands, you go immediately to the jewelweed and rub the jewelweed juice on your hands, and you won't have an outbreak. Yeah. Or if you're going into a place with poison ivy, you use the jewelweed before you go in, and then after also, and you'll be fine. And it's usually by water. You can wash your hands with the water. You want to get the oils of the poison ivy off. So that's the way a lot of things are. And usually also what we need is usually right in front of us. We don't usually have to go far to get the medicine and the food that we need.
I remember that it was a qigong class I was taking with you as well, but there was a gentleman, it was like qigong on one day. I spent an awful lot of time with you back in the 90s. And I tell this story because it's one of the funniest stories I ever heard. Do you remember the guy who was in your herb class and his name was Herb Student?
Yeah. That was his real name too.
I know, you can't make this stuff up. I don't know if he was any good or if he ever got any of it, but I mean, with a name like that, he was supposed to be in your class, you know.
Yeah, he was a trip. When I separated my shoulder, I've had a mountain bike accident and I separated my shoulder, and I went to the doctors and they said, do not pass go, go to a surgeon. So I went to the local bike shops. I was on my bicycle when I did a mountain bike, and they all said that they had had surgery and it wasn't that much better, that they still had some residual injury. So I decided to heal it myself. So I got a couple rolfing sessions and I called Herb Student immediately from the hospital. He came to pick me up, took me to where to pick the comfrey, and helped me make the poultices, where then I poulticed my shoulder, and then I used the comfrey and the castor oil packs for about 6 months, and my shoulder would go in spasm once a year. I'd go get a massage right away. That happened about 5 or 6 years afterwards, and never again any problem.
Yeah. There's
So Herb Student came to the
to
rescue.
the rescue. Just really funny. I'll never forget that. And I remember walking through many years ago. I worked for a lawn care company, so I knew how to identify weeds. I was always thinking of them as weeds. We were just in your yard not too long ago, walking around out back. Natalia and I had the privilege, and seeing violets growing in the yard. And I remember I was like, oh, the first time I went on a lawn call, for this lawn care company, I said, these are so beautiful. And everybody looked at me and said, people don't like violets in their yard. They want you to. So tell me about violets, because we're seeing a lot of them around. What do you have?
Violets, I'm making a sun tea. If you do nothing else, grab your violets and dandelion and whatever else is grown in your yard, unsprayed yard, and put them in water and either make a hot tea, or this is a cold infusion. And it's been sitting in the sun all day, and now the plants are given the water. It's medicine. And violets, the leaf itself is shaped like a heart. It's very good strengthening to the heart. The flowers are very calming, very safe to use for the elderly and the young. I make a syrup with it. I make tea with it. You can candy the violet leaf flowers, and they're actually gorgeous to put on cakes and cookies and whatever. I put fresh violets on the salads, and the leaves are also very high in vitamin A. They're anti-cancer. A lot of your greens, your dandelion and your violets are very anti-cancer. They work with your liver. They clean your blood. And if you do nothing else for yourself ever, then just go pick a few weeds and throw them and make a pot of tea every day. You're doing a lot. You're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals, a lot of chlorophyll. Anything green out here is high in chlorophyll, where it feeds the mitochondria part of your cell, which is the energy, with a part of the cell that gives you energy. So green juice is the perfect food for the human body. It feeds the structure and feeds the blood, and you can't go wrong with violets and dandelion.
Violets and dandelion. How much green juice? There's this question about how much green juice do we need, or how much would you recommend per day to get people started? How much? Like that?
To get started, so I do about 4 of these a day. But I have dandelion and chickweed and violets and you name it. I have everything out in my yard in this, plus some kale and collard greens left over from last year in my garden. And then I water it down with celery and cucumber, and that makes it more palatable. So when I was with Evelyn, she would start people. That was my teacher. Evelyn Snook was one of my main teachers. She worked a lot with degenerative disease was her thing, cancer and degenerative disease. And she would start people with 1 ounce. And then she would slowly work up, and we would not only drink it, but we do something called a green juice implant, which I'll describe that in the class. But I teach a lot of this stuff, but it's just real simple backyard things that you can integrate into your body. Yeah. So I start them off with about 1 ounce, either internally or externally, drinking it, and work it up to a couple quarts a day.
Yeah. Wow.
And for me, I do that throughout the day, and then I have a good healthy meal at night and maybe a few healthy snacks during the day. But that's pretty extreme. But even if you just add some green juice to your diet, just even 1 ounce a day. It's so much better than the green powder that you're buying, all the expensive green stuff you buy. In this, I have vitamin K, vitamin A, glutathione, vitamin C, which are all the things for coronavirus, by the way, plus all the other vitamins and minerals and nutrients just in this juice. So instead of spending tons and tons of money on vitamins that your body probably only absorbs a small amount, if you just go pick the weeds and eat them and drink them, you are going to save yourself a lot of money and you're going to save your health.
The last couple of years, I remember I've got this great big yard where I live now in Ohio, getting out before the neighbors, crawling around in my yard, pulling the dandelions and the weeds, and coming back in and making an absolutely fresh green juice. And man, it's so, the smell of it, first of all, you could feel it. It's just an amazing thing.
Makes you immediately strong. I mean, you can feel it immediately.
So
it's just amazing. It's like a blood transfusion, which it is. Chlorophyll is the same as blood, except the chlorophyll nucleus is instead of iron, it's magnesium, but the same atoms, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen surround it. So it's like giving yourself a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
If we have a woman with a bleed out when she gives birth, we give her bottles of this stuff.
Yeah. Amazing. It's amazing how simple it is. And it's just to retrain ourselves, you know, in pandemic time where they're trying to open things. Maybe some people think too soon, some people think too late. That's not the question. The question is, how have we spent this time we've had more time, and just implementing one little thing like this into a new way of life, it really help us sustain ourselves. Like you were saying, end of times and plants and things like that. I'm thinking about, we were sitting in your backyard and I can't remember the name of the beautiful pinkish trees, but you could make redbud trees. They're all around here. Did you just say something about putting them on, making a cake it was something
delicious and cake, but I make biscuits. Like when I'm having an herb class in the early spring's the best time because everything is before it gets bitter. So they're very tasty. So there's a lot of food out in the spring. And I usually welcome my my students with biscuits made with the red bud, and then the red bud and the violets go in the salads. Also, I always have a wild food lunch with my herb classes, and we just pick the greens, and I have a few things made ahead of time, but we usually make something together.
Yeah.
And you can make a big salad with just wild greens, and you can make biscuits with the red bud. You can put violets on the flour, the red bud on the flour, the dandelion petals on the flour. You can make dandelion butter, dandelion oil. You can just get very creative with your food and the weeds in your yard.
This is so exciting, Faye. You've got so much wisdom, and we are really grateful that starting May 11th, we're going to start with a 4-week class. We might bump it up. We're going to start with 4 weeks of backyard medicine, and Faye is going to walk us through literally her gorgeous yard, gardens, and how to look for these things in our yards. But she's got a nice 4-class series set up to begin, and then we'll touch back in June and through the summer as things transition, and then into the fall plants, so that we can keep ourselves healthy and sustained all throughout the year. So that's going to be Tuesday, May 11th. We're going to start these classes with Faye Burtch. Anything else you want to add? Like a minute or two of, we can go in so many different directions with healing arts. I know you practice qigong too, but the energy in plants, if we eat something fresh, pulling something right from where it's living, it's like eating life force, isn't it?
Exactly. And in China, my master would take the flowers that we would go and breathe in the flower essence.
Yeah.
That's a true flower essence.
Yeah.
We would go to the cracks along the stones in the mountains where there were cracks, and we would breathe in that qi, that life force. And in China, they actually understand that every plant, and in South America, where I have studied with the ancients also, they understand the energetics and the spirit of the plants as well as the physical attributes.
Mhm.
So plants are multidimensional, just like humans.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. To be continued. And maybe next time when we have you on another wake up, we could talk about qigong specifically and those
Sure.
energies. But you're just a wealth of knowledge, and one of my greatest teachers, Faye Burtch, humble bow to you, named after a tree. Thank you for joining us, and look for the class starting May 11th. It's going to be called Backyard Medicine with Faye Burtch, right here with SoulCall Global. You can find out more at soulcallglobal.org under Evolve. It'll be under the events under Evolve. So much love to you, Faye. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And wherever you are on your journey, everyone, remember, you are loved. Peace and blessings.